The police chief in Tehran says 5 suspects have been arrested following 2 attacks that killed at least 12 people. ISIS has now claimed responsibility. That is gunfire heard as assailants stormed the legislature in Tehran, armed with assault rifles and explosives. An hours-long siege followed, which ended in the 4 attackers being killed. Iranian state TV is reporting that one of the 4 blew himself up inside the parliament. In a separate attack, a suicide bomber detonated a device at the mausoleum for Iran's revolutionary leader, Ayatollah Khomeini. Kamran Bokhari is a senior fellow with the Center for Global Policy and a fellow with the program on extremism at George Washington University. Kamran, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
What do you make of this attack?
It's unprecedented. This is the first attack by ISIS inside Iran. In fact, this is perhaps one of the first major jihadist attacks in Iran. Iran has seen, low-level jihadist activity in its periphery, both in Kurdish areas and the Baloch areas near the border with Pakistan. But in the capital, Tehran has not seen this kind of activity in many decades. And the last time it happened, it was a different organization called the Mujahideen-e-Khalq, and this was in the 80s.
Typically, how does the Iranian government react to something like this?
Well, I mean, in most cases, the Iranian government is already in sort of proactive mode, in the sense that they are hunting for potential terrorists trying to stage attacks. And then I think that for the most part, they have been successful in averting these kind of situations, at least inside the capital and the core of the country. Again, on the periphery, it's a different thing. Cross-border terrorism is something that, many states can't handle. And so I think that moving forward, what the Iranians are going to be doing is trying to figure out who was responsible, the network. I mean, they have a multi-layered intelligence service that's pretty ruthless and effective. So I suspect that they want to know who just sort of slipped by them under the radar.
Is it surprising that they would get this close? I mean, all the way to the Iranian parliament. I mean, that place is usually locked down with the Revolutionary Guard.
Yes, I mean, that is one of the things, is that this is the first attack by ISIS, and it's not something that they just sort of, pulled out of a hat. This is likely to be in preparation mode for quite some time. They had assets on the ground, and today they just decided to pull the trigger on them, or at least on some of them. We don't know the full extent of the network that ISIS has inside the country. So, I mean, this is major in the sense that they were able to remain undetected and then, pull the trigger. Obviously, the casualty count was low compared to other attacks. But nonetheless, it's still penetrating Iranian security grid.
We've seen attacks on the parliament in London, attacks on parliament in Ottawa. What's the international reaction been to this one?
I think it's a difficult situation because Iran is seen as a pariah by the United States and many countries in the West. It's seen as a state sponsor of terrorism, i.e. its support for Hezbollah, Hamas, and other organizations. At the same time, it is fighting ISIS. So it's an awkward situation for many governments. Do you come out and do you support, condemn it? Do you remain quiet? You don't want to embolden Iran, and you don't want to appear to be on their side.
Kamran Bokhari, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.